Minh on the line. Hi, Minh. How are you?
Hey, Minh.
Hello, Christy. Hello, Serafina. Hello, Megan.
Howdy.
I'm okay. How are you guys?
Yeah, what's going on tonight? Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah. So the first caller just bring up to me something that I wonder myself too, and which is I feel like before people from our community are rejected by people from the outside, it seems like even in our own community we don't even accept each other yet. So I would love to give you some experience for myself, and I would love to hear your opinion how we can resolve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was about 19 years old, I took a class, a human sexuality class in college, and my teacher was a transsexual woman, so she transitioned completely.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day when she brought in a guest speaker who was also a transsexual, and so when we when we go through the Q&A and ask questions,
Mm-hmm.
So the way I see it, so when I talk to the partner of the guest speaker, I ask him, so in your mind, do you see your fiance is a woman or is it a transsexual woman? And he said, well, I mean, she act and talk and she behave and she treats me like a man and she act like a woman. So I do see her a woman, not a transsexual woman. And then I asked him, what about my teacher? Do you see her as a woman as well? And then he told me, I think if you ask me, in my mind, I don't think she looks exactly like a woman. But if she want me to accept her as a woman, I would. And so it seemed like even in our, I mean, of course he's not gay, so he's not in our community, so I don't consider that. But I mean, even in our own community, I feel like we have a tendency to treat, transsexual women and transgender women differently. I mean, they don't seem to be in harmony with each other because transsexuals seem to see themselves, I'm a woman, I'm just born in the wrong, sex. So I don't want to be lumped into the same category with the other, transgender woman. So I guess do you see that often in your community where you live, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think even the way that we talk about these things is changing.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the narrative, even as recently as 5 years ago, was that a trans person was somebody who was born in the wrong body,
Sure.
right? And now more and more we're recognizing that that's way too simplistic. And you can check out Serafina's episode in particular, where she goes into sort of the specifics of the genetics and the other aspects of transgender identity, but simply to say that it's not a binary switch, that XY chromosome conversation that we're so constantly having, it's not a singular genetic mutation where somebody just got the wrong flip switch. It's so much more complex than that, and trans women are so much more complex than a accidental misfiring on one particular chromosome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot for this one. Sorry.
No, you're right. I mean, there's so much gatekeeping in the LGBTQ, et cetera, community. People who are gay and don't care for the trans folk, or people who are trans and experience dysphoria and don't care for the folks who are trans and don't experience dysphoria, people who are any sort of thing and don't want asexuals to be part of it, people who don't think non-binary people should be counted as queer folk. It is ridiculous, frankly. But it's everywhere. It's going on constantly. And I hear what you're saying, and I do agree that it's a problem. And I think that as far as solutions go, a lot of it is just trying to spread the right, quote unquote, the more inclusive, I guess, memes, that sort of dialogue is as best we can, so that it becomes the more accepted way to look at things.
Basically spreading empathy.
Yeah. That might be my favorite Facebook trend of this week, at a time where we're debating, female presenting nipples and these stupid things on Facebook. The recent series of memes where it's just recycled old memes with all the gender pronouns scratched out and replaced with inclusive language.
I haven't seen that. That's cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's been popping up all over in my feed. But, just find a girl that makes you feel blah, blah, blah. And it just crosses out the girl and says, person. Find a person.
Yeah.
That's something we can all get behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, no easy answers. It's going
Yeah.
to take time, but keep on trying to spread inclusivity.
I guess the problem. Yeah, I think the problem I see is that many people tend to use the term normal as like with the capital N. So I remember when I was about 25 years old, I went to see my doctor, and so my doctor was sick on that day, so there was a substitute physician, and this woman was from Tennessee. So she asked me, just regular question like, are you sexually active? Do you have, how many sexual partners do you have? And I answered no to all of those questions. Mm-hmm. And she said, really? So, and the conversation turned personal. Mm. So I asked her, why are you surprised? Is something wrong with that? She said, no. It's just that from my experience, it's really rare to see gay people who are normal like you. And I asked her to explain what it means. She said, most gay patients I met, if they're not flamboyant, they're going to wear really strange color I don't recognize. You dress pretty normally. And you don't have, you're not promiscuous. You want to have, a partner. And so if you go to live in my town, people will welcome you. And then I asked her, you serious? You live in a Bible Belt. You expect me to live there? She said, well, people they accept people if you have some standard of normalcy that you commit to, and it seems like you are in that category, so you will be accepted.
One of the good ones.
And and on the internet, I went to a blog about this gay family who have children, and the fathers explained to the audience that they have experience in the South because they just want to show people that they are normal, just like any family. They have children, they want to work, they don't commit any crime, etc. So I guess that's why the image of those things tend to.
Turns out gay people are people.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, as visibility increases, as we've been talking about, that those sorts of stereotypes start to evaporate. And, again, there's nothing wrong with being a little slutty, with getting around, with not wanting a long-time singular partner, with, having multiple partners, all of these different things, with being flamboyant and these different stereotypical identifiers. But being gay doesn't mean that those things are true about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got two things going here. We've got the stereotype thing, and we've also got just the conflation of the two definitions of normal as common and as, correct.
Right.
And that's a really unfortunate conflation in our culture.
Yeah. And it's not going to change without effort.
Yeah.
So, Serafina, when you address to the people, whom you educate about LGBTQ issue, how do you address the issue of, being normal? Because in their mind, I guess being transsexual, being transgender, or being gay is not a problem. But the thing is, they expect you to have some sort of conformity, to fit in, not to make yourself separate from the rest of society. So how would you address that to those people?
Gosh, poorly. I mean,
With pizzazz.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there are legitimate drawbacks to conforming to standards, and there are legitimate drawbacks to not conforming to standards. So I couldn't really advise one way or the other as such. I tend to dress fairly normally as far as that goes, and that is not because I think it's right, and it's not because it's my personal style. It is because if I dress in a way that society does not blink an eye at most of the time, then I am not paid attention to. And so I do not get as much negative attention when I'm walking around on the street or when I'm at the McDonald's or whatever. And at the same time, if you are in a subgroup and you're not conforming to the stereotypes for that subgroup, there's negative drawbacks to that too, because people, will be holding you up as, oh, this is one of the good ones. Why can't all those other gays be like you?
Token minority ship.
Right. And it's just, it's awful. It's a terrible place to be. And I'm very sorry that you've been placed in that position before. I don't know what I would tell people, because it's kind of a double-edged sword that you don't get to win at.
Yeah, it's exactly, because where I'm living, close to San Francisco Bay Area, and people there, they're very much liberal with the way they live, with their sexuality. And the thing is, I don't feel I fit in that community, because people, when I tell them I'm gay, they expect me to go to club every night, or I do drugs, or I need to have, to sleep with many people, and I don't do any of those things. It's not like I find them disgusting. That those things, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't do those things. It's not in me. The sad thing, like some people even from the South, they accept me, more than the gay community where I'm living, because they think that I'm trying to conform to their standard, but I don't. That's just the way I live my life.
Sure.
Right. And I think to wrap it up, I think the idea of normalcy, something being normal, honestly, that goes across gender lines, across
racial lines.
Racial lines. It goes across every facet of society. Something can be deemed normal or not normal.
I work so hard to use the word typical when I'm expressing something that is statistically common.
Right.
So as not to put that value statement on it, because we so often do.
Right. But I think the best thing we can say is there is nothing wrong at all with being what one would consider out of the norm. Just remind yourself of that occasionally, that you're good the way you are.
Yeah, you get to be you.
And we like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do really appreciate you giving us a call.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Minh.
you so much, guys. Thank you for a good show.
Yeah, you have a good night.